me and my wife recently got out of debt. There's a lot of hard work, struggle, and decisions we made in order to get out of debt. And I just want to share that with you. We are so grateful for the situation that we're in, and we can like start a little dialogue here, but the happiness and relief that I received from getting out of debt is something pretty amazing, and I want to help other people have that same feeling. And I know that a lot of people have it a lot worse than we do, right? Like, I'm not saying we had it bad, but we were in debt, and we owed the government money, we owed different people money, but we're out of it now. And so now I feel like all the work that I do and all the progression me and my wife make financially directly goes to benefit us and what our goals and dreams are. And yeah, so I'm hoping my story here will be a little bit of a help and hopefully an inspiration to you guys, I guess. When you like start out with a whole bunch of debt, like you slowly pay it off over time, and then finally you're done. Like, this is 0% of debt. This is like 100% of your debt here. And what sucks about debt is like there's interest on top of it. So even though you're paying it off, the interest is like this. So really you're paying this much amount even though you only originally borrowed this much amount. So this is how like debtors earn their money, right? And it's the worst thing ever. So this, I guess this is just like why debt sucks to begin with. And like the debtors will come after you wanting their monthly payments. Luckily, my wife and I, like over the last, I don't know how many months, I think it was like 8 months, is when COVID hit. In America, Trump passed like all these rules saying that there's a whole bunch of freezes put on debt and payments because so many people got laid off jobs and they weren't making money. So luckily, the majority of what we tried to pay off was paid off without interest reoccurring. So really ours just looked like this, and it just followed it. Like, we paid a little extra, but it wasn't as much as if we if interest was accruing the whole time. So I guess we seized the opportunity when all these freezes and stuff were put on debt. My wife and I got together and we decided, you know what? Let's make it our main goal to get out of debt. And we decided to follow the Dave Ramsey plan. And I don't know if you guys have listened to Dave Ramsey or if you have opinions for or against Dave Ramsey. It's okay. I've heard all of them. There's some things that are hard for me to swallow too, and but what me and my wife decided to do was, hey, let's listen to what Dave Ramsey has to say, and then we can choose to do whatever we want, right? If there's some part of the plan or some part of his guidance that we don't like, then we don't have to do it. We can do our own thing. We didn't want to have any sort of commitment or stress put on us for sticking to a plan that we felt like wasn't beneficial to us. And so I'm just gonna turn down this music just a little bit. So yeah. So Dave Ramsey's plan is step number 1, you save $1,000. And this is for emergency. This is just for emergency funds. So you really cut back your budget, you stop eating out, you stop spending money on all the crap that you don't need, and you really tried to budget, you tighten down your budget. All the extra money you make each month, after paying off bills and debt payments and rent and all your necessities, everything extra goes to just saving it in the bank. Just saving $1,000 into the bank, so that way you can have a little bit of breathing room. For example, we had to get new tires on our car, right? Where originally we would be we have no money for that. We can't afford new tires on our car. We just have to keep driving them even though it might be unsafe or they might be getting a little bald. But with this $1,000, Like if I were to break my arm, if we were to get in a car crash, like when emergencies come up, we would have a little bit of money to soften that blow. And $1,000 may seem like a lot, but that's not very much. Like a really cheap car, like you could maybe buy a car for $1,000. So if you total your car, it's gonna totally wipe this out. So $1,000 is just a little bit to soften the blow, just a little bit, as you're trying to get out of debt. Now after the $1,000, let's say you've set aside $1,000, you're not gonna touch it, it's for emergencies. You start chipping away at the debt. Like you just start throwing it at the debt. And so my wife and I like made lots of sacrifices. Like I had a piece of cardboard in my computer. I do all my work from home, right? I do all my work from home on the computer. And I had a piece of cardboard wedged underneath the GPU, holding it in the perfect place. Like if I held it too high, if the cardboard was too tall, the GPU wouldn't work and my computer wouldn't turn on. Or if it was too short, it wouldn't turn on. Like it had to be in the perfect spot. I had a piece of cardboard holding up my GPU for 8 months. Actually, it was probably a little bit longer than that. It was probably like a year. But we didn't spend money on necessary things. Like we all made sacrifices. We didn't eat out as much. We didn't go on vacations. Like we sacrificed a lot of these things and really tightened down our monthly expenses so that we could throw money at the debt. So we have $1,000 that we saved in our bank account. Hey, you know what? Let's make this green. Let's get rid of all this. So number one is saving $1,000. And we're making it green because like you're making it and you're keeping it. It's staying in your bank. Now, step number 2 is pay off debt. Guess how much debt we had? It's not like super crazy a lot. Like I'm not a doctor or anything. But we had $22,000 in debt. And I mean, when you're still in your like 20s, you're like mid 20s, and you have $22,000 in debt. Like I understand if you're a doctor and this is actually like $122,000, like that's different. I feel like as a doctor you have a bigger shovel, right? Like you have more, you can earn more to pay off that debt. So it's not as scary as if me, an actor, or like a work at home streamer, web developer had $122,000 in debt. But no, my wife and I had $22,000 in debt. So $18,000 was for student loans, and $4,000 was the car. So loans and car. So we had $22,000 total. And so every month we worked our butts off. Like we did so much extra overtime that like my wife was taking on these extra jobs. She would like fill out surveys to get like Amazon gift cards so that we could buy things on Amazon that we needed. And so then our like budget was cheaper. Like, and I would build extra like freelance websites because like I'm a web developer. That's how I put myself through college and everything. Like I would do all this extra freelance work to try to bring in more money so that we could pay off our debt. And so every month we tried to throw $2,000 at the debt, which is a lot. Like I honestly don't know how we were able to achieve that some months, but the average over the course of everything was like $2,000 each month that we were able to throw at it. Obviously a little extra because that means we would have done it in 11 months. I guess it was more like 3,000 actually, looking back. But like I would take on an extra job, work super hard for like a month, and earn $5,000 that month on that one job. And even though it was like me taking on a whole separate full-time job, like it was worth it in my brain, because I knew that it's only temporary. That eventually at the end of the goal, when we've paid off debt, that I wouldn't I wouldn't need to work that second full-time job again. So if you're watching me like 5 years, 10 years in the future, and you're like, dang, like, isn't he making like millions from streaming and videos and everything? Like, no, I if anything, I'm losing money making videos and streaming. Like, I'm putting a lot of time into it, and I'm like buying music and like other things that aren't maybe important, but I'm more likely losing money trying to stream and do all this. So yeah, so picking up a second job to get out of debt is sometimes a necessity, and it sucks because no one has time for a second job, right? No one has time to work even more. And so you just have to remind yourself that it's temporary. Like you have two options when it comes to paying off debt. Option number one is increase your shovel size, meaning start earning more money, whether that's taking on a new job or finding a different job that pays more. Like, if you increase your shovel size, you'll be able to dig yourself out of debt faster. And then option number two is to cut back on your expenses. So stop eating out. Like, just stop eating out. There's no more DoorDash, there's no more Uber Eats, there's no more going to McDonald's. Like, just stop eating out altogether. Now, like, yes, you can't go crazy, right? And I think that's where it takes good communication, either with yourself or you and your spouse or your significant other, because the things that I want to cut down on, the expenses I want to cut down on, I'm like, oh, we don't need this anymore, let's cut it out of the budget. Well, my wife might have something to say about that thing, and she might think that we should cut out something that I care about out of the budget instead. You know, like, I'm like, oh, we only need $100 worth of food for this month. And she's like, no, we need like more than that. Like, you want to just eat top ramen every single day for every single meal? Like, no. So obviously there's compromise. Obviously you have to do things within reason, but I think it's important to actually sit down with yourself, with your significant other, and talk about what you actually need, and remind yourself during this conversation that it's only temporary, right? Like, you need to talk about your end goal. Your end goal is to be financially in a better place at the end of 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And even though you might really struggle those 3 years because you're not eating out as much as you usually do, or you're not going on your annual trip to Disney World like you usually do, making those sacrifices will bring you peace in the long run, right? Like, you can sacrifice for 3 years if it means for the next 30, 50 years of your life you're gonna be much happier in a better place. Like, yeah, like, what the heck, let's do it. So yeah, I don't know, I guess I just wanted to share that with you guys. Like, I wanted to share that it's totally worth the struggle, and 22,000 is baby stuff. This is baby number. Like, this is nothing. Like, I know lots and lots of people who have way more than this. They have $50,000, $60,000. Like, we just had a little bit in student loans and a small car, you know? But I think a lot of people have $30,000 in loans, and they have a $14,000 car. And so they might feel like way more overwhelmed. And so I get that. Like, it sucks. Like, I felt the pressure with just $22,000 of debt. Like, I can't imagine what you're feeling with more debt than me. And so the only thing that I can recommend is really evaluate these things. Like, I don't know, can you sell this car? And even though you're going to lose money because the car is worth less than what you like bought it for, or I don't know, like if you turn this car loan into a $6,000 car loan, and now you just have like and then you just go out and buy a $4,000 car, this is only $10,000 opposed to your $14,000 that you started with, right? Like, I don't know if any of that made sense, but what I'm saying is you have lots of options, and maybe you need to start selling. Like Dave Ramsey says, like, sell so much stuff that the kids think they're next. You know, like there's so much junk we have. Like this green screen behind me, like, I don't know if I necessarily need this green screen to, like, it's not making me any money, right? Like, why don't I just sell it? Again, it's only temporary, and then we'll get out of debt faster. And then in the future, when we don't have debt and we're in a better place financially, then I can buy it again, you know? But I think it's all about analyzing your priorities, seeing what's most important to you and the people that depend on you, and seeing where you can really cut back. And it's gonna take extra work. It's way more work to cook meals for yourself than it is to buy fast food, where it takes 5 minutes to go pick it up or have it delivered to you. So it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice on so many fronts. But I'm telling you guys, it's so worth it. Because now that this is like gone, I feel like we just have so much more money. Like, we don't have monthly payments for student loans. All that money that we would have been putting towards monthly payments for student loans, we can now put to anything we want. Like forget what is the best place to put it towards. Like, it's our money now, you know? Like, we're not in a hole. The government's not knocking on our door trying to find their money. Like, no one's coming after us. The money we earn, we can put towards whatever we want. We could go throw it away if we wanted to, and no one would be upset, you know? Like, I don't know, it's totally worth the sacrifice. So yeah, I don't know. This has just been a long work in progress. I feel like there's so many things I wanted to buy for the stream, buy for YouTube, buy just for fun, you know, that I haven't been able to. And after a year of hard work, most recently the past 8 months of hard work, like, at least we're in a better spot than we were. And I think that this has strengthened our marriage and our relationship, because it's put us on the same page with our financial goals. This wasn't me forcing my wife to, like, hey, like, you need to stop buying stuff because we need to pay off debt. And this wasn't her, like, forcing me. Like, this was a together thing where we both had the same objective and same goal, and that was to get out of debt. Both of our parents are, like, didn't make very good decisions when it came to you know, I take that back. You know, forget what I just said. But I guess what I'm trying to say is we really want to start our family off in a strong place financially. I don't have all the answers, but I would love for you guys to comment questions, comment concerns. If you're just mad at me because I got out of debt, like, you can let me know. I would love to help you guys out, help point you in the same directions that me and my wife were pointed to when we were trying to figure out this. Help you see, like, what apps we used, stuff like that. Like, if you guys are interested in that, let me know. I could maybe do a follow-up video or just comment back to you directly. If any of this is helpful to you guys, And if you made it this far into the video, like, feel free to subscribe. This channel is all about just my life, what I'm interested in. I love to do acting and I like to play video games. So I'd love for you guys to hang out and feel free to ask me any questions and I guess join me on my journey as I try to traverse this thing called Earth. So